Let's go to our panel now, and we're joined by Sky News host Caroline Di Russo in Perth and the Melbourne City Councillor Rashina Campbell live from Melbourne. Thanks for both joining us. I want to start off on energy and this story that I'm certain would have raised hackles around the country, and that is news that the bosses at Alinta Energy are going to get, between the lot of them, a $7 million boost in pay. That's a 40% increase, Caroline, while the rest of us are hit with these massively increasing bills.
Yeah, and look, I think it's particularly with the cost of living crisis we have at the moment, Chris, it's very hard for people to swallow. I mean, ultimately, Alinta is owned by a Chinese company. It's up to them to determine what they pay their employees, but it really does cause some difficulties for social licence, Chris. And, we see the cost of energy going up all the time, and it does make it a little bit more difficult, particularly when these companies are, engaging with government, engaging with other stakeholders. It becomes a little difficult to have sympathy for them when things like this happen. But ultimately, it is what it is. It'd be very interesting to see if anyone else follows suit.
Yeah, well, those Chinese communists, they sure do play a good game of capitalism, don't they? They like all the perks of capitalism. And Rashina, I want to get your thoughts on this.
Chinese characteristics.
Exactly. Authoritarian capitalism rather than communism. Rashina, just wrapping into this is more word from the Greens now that right around the country, they want to ban any more developments of our natural gas, which is critical, obviously, in its own right for energy and industry, but also for supplying cheap and affordable energy. So, this energy crisis is only going from bad to worse, and the Greens are really a problem to the extent that they have an influence on the debate on what Labor does.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever thought the Greens could ever be a party of government, this is your answer. They are not doing the hard policy work to make sure that we have reliable and affordable energy that's going to keep this country going. They are a party of protest and dissent. And at the end of the day, we need to be governed by grown-ups at every level of government, and they have not done the hard work that's going to keep businesses open and families going as well. So I think this is incredibly disappointing and something that all of us should be very worried about. It's one thing to be out there signalling about the importance of renewable energy, but if you haven't done the hard work to make sure the power stays on, it doesn't count for much.
Now, I just want to go to another grab from what's happened in the US. I want to get your thoughts on what's happened with this latest assassination attempt on Donald Trump. We talked about how the Secret Service were only looking after certain aspects of the golf course. Here's what the local sheriff had to say.
At this level that he is at right now, he's not the sitting president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around it. Well, because he's not, the security is limited to the areas that the Secret Service deems possible.
Caroline, this staggers me. He's a former president. He's running as a candidate again. They shot his ear off just 2 months ago. Shouldn't they be giving him the maximum security possible?
Well, you would think so. You would absolutely think so, particularly given the situation last time, which was only a few weeks ago. I mean, this did not happen a long time ago. The Secret Service were, really quite wanting on that occasion. You would think that they would behave in a way that would mean that, there wasn't any question mark over the job that they were doing. I actually find it really quite extraordinary because it's part of the authorities. It's part of those forces that, they need to be seen to be credible. They need to be seen to be doing their job. And you're right, he's a former president. He's running for president. He could very well be president within a few months. You would think that they would bridge that gap to make sure that no further questions were asked about their competence and the way that they were running their show, but obviously not.
Yeah, well, maybe from now, it's just astounding. Rashina, I want to get your thoughts on the political rhetoric. Now, again, anyone who indulges in violence, they're the ones to blame. You can't blame other people's words. But the Democrats keep telling us that Trump is divisive, and we know about Trump's rhetoric. No one's ignorant about that. But when you're telling people that the future of the country and of democracy is at stake, that if you vote for this guy, America is finished, my God, that elevates the stakes, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that it's worth mentioning that New York Times polling that came out a little while ago that found actually most people did not think that Trump's policies were too extreme. I think there are only about 30% of people who did. So they're playing on the fear of people unnecessarily instead of having the hard political debates. And that's, quite frankly, I think what American voters deserve. They deserve a real contest of ideas, no matter what your politics are, to try and suggest that there is going to be an end-of-world scenario. That's taking politics down, I think, to a tone that's below what American voters deserve.
Yeah, it's too polarised. I think one of the factors is they don't see people engaging in day-to-day debate the way we do in Australia. I think if they could see Kamala Harris and Donald Trump on the same stage more often, engaging in a bit of tit for tat, then that actually lowers the temperature a bit. Instead, they're sort of opposite ends of the country screaming at each other.